Hey guys, what's up? So are you still having trouble with stale inventory kind of bogging down your eBay store? Because if you're like me, it's a problem that keeps coming up over and over. Now, that doesn't mean that some of it doesn't move, but there's always more items that fall through the cracks and more items that need attention. And even though we may disagree sometimes on when to define something as stale, I think we can probably come to this conclusion that if it's been with us for a year, man, it needs some help and it needs to go. One way or the other, we got to figure out a way to get that item sold, to get it out of our inventory, and to get it on down the road. And so today, that's our goal. I told you in the last video when we discussed end and sell similar that we would be looking at optimization in this video. And optimization relates to how your item appears in a search. So specifically SEO or search engine optimization. And we want to optimize the listing so that it ranks as high as possible in both eBay searches, which are internal, and things like Google searches, which are external. So in both cases, we want to have the best listing possible. And I think if we fix that and then combine it with end and sell similar, if we take end it, optimize it, relist it, then I think we'll get the best formula for killing this stale inventory bug and improving our ability to sell those items that have just been around too long. So guys, it's so good to have you with me today. I am Josh. This is Bama Jaybird Resell. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't already seen the previous videos in this series, check them out. There should be a link provided either at the end of the video, or I may slip a card in here so you can connect that way. But just check out my channel. You'll see the playlist and catch up on the stale inventory videos. Now, in order to really understand, or I would say understand, in order to really be able to get a clear picture of optimization, I think we need to understand what it is we're working against. And so we're working with, or maybe against, sometimes it feels like, the eBay algorithm. And this eBay algorithm is based off of something they call best match. That's how all initial search results are returned to a potential buyer. Now, if you can limit, right, and filter, we know all that, but the basic results are all based on what is the best match for this buyer. Now, I'm not going to explain all these in detail. You can look them up and learn more about them, but I do want to hit the high points of a few of these criteria that are used to determine what the best match is, because I think you're going to be surprised by some of the things that can affect it. Some of these are out of the realm of possibility of using optimization of the listing to fix. So let's take a look at best match. And first thing I'd like to say is when we talk about best match results, this is based on what is often referred to as a best match score. Now, there are several things that are factored into what becomes your best match score for a particular item. When it's, your item, like where it ranks when the person is searching for something similar to what you have for sale. And it all begins with, of course, how closely your item matches the actual keywords in the buyer's search. So that's granted, right? That's what we'd all expect. But beyond that, it also considers the popularity of the various items that might satisfy the search and where yours ranks in that list of popularity. It considers the price of the item. So if your item is priced too far above the market average, you may have trouble ranking high in the search results. Another thing that they consider is the quality of your listing. This could include how good your description is. It could include the number of photos that you have. You only have to have one, but it's probably not a good idea. The more photos you have, you're probably going to have a better best match score overall. Now, it also includes item specifics, all these different factors that affect the quality. There's also some other things that will impact your ranking in terms of best match search results. This includes how complete the listing is. So when you choose not to fill out some of those item specifics, and look, we're all guilty, right? We find an item similar to ours, we click sell similar, we do the things you have to do, we put in a title, choose if it's used or new or that kind of stuff. But sometimes we skip over specifics and we just don't take time. But the more of that stuff we do, when it's a more complete listing, you get a higher best match score. So that's important. The higher your best match score is, the higher you're going to rank in the search results for a buyer looking for that item. Now, so the last two things, according to eBay, that is factored into best match results might be a little bit interesting to you. One of them is terms of service. Terms of service would include whether or not you offer free returns. So offering free returns is like a bonus, right? You get a higher score for that. Also, if you have shorter handling time. So those that do next day shipping are probably going to score higher than me because I do 3-day shipping. Again, this is all preference too, but any changes you can make that will make your item stand out, make them stand out not only in the algorithm, but in front of potential buyers, that helps you. All right, so the last one might surprise you a little bit, but this goes back to your seller track record. And there's not a lot you can do to change this really quickly, but it is important that you have a good track record as an eBay seller because it can come back to bite you if you don't. So you want to do things like provide the best customer service possible, answer your messages if you can, if at all possible, respond to buyers who have inquiries. Make sure you respond to offers. Even if it's a decline, respond to them. That's so important. You want to make sure that you provide good customer service. I mean, doesn't it make sense that if you were eBay, you would funnel more traffic to those sellers who provide the best customer service? I think that's a no-brainer. Also tied to your seller track record is things like the return rate, cancellation rates, your overall feedback and how that looks, late shipment rate, all these different factors, right? They are kind of like store metrics, and the better those numbers are, the more eBay is likely to promote your items and to push you further up in search results. Now, all this information is good. But what we really want to know is why are some items tending to stay around so long, and why aren't they selling, and how can we fix the problem? And that's where we get back to optimization. Now, eBay would say that the length of time that an item stays in the inventory doesn't impact the search results, like where it ranks in searches. And while that may be true, we already know that items that stay around a long time can impact our metrics as a seller. And since metrics do influence the ranking in the search results, indirectly, it does have an impact. So we need to fix it. And this is where we do that. This is where we're going to look at coupling or pairing up optimization with end and sell similar. So first of all, think of it this way. It's best practice whenever you end a listing to always optimize it before relisting. I know we talked in the last video about how many times we do like bulk edits and we'll delist a large number of items and just relist them so that they have a new inventory number. And that helps maybe to a degree. But when you've got items that are constantly being relisted and falling back to the bottom of the search results, relisted, falling back into stale inventory, and you've been doing this process over and over and it's not moving it, we got to try something else. Now, for some people, they want to automatically go to a big time markdown, and sometimes that's necessary. But I think in many cases, it's just about optimization. So first of all, I would say these are some key things in optimization to check for. Look for mistakes. Make sure you're in the right category. It's so easy, especially when you're just selling similar, to wind up with an item that is not categorized right. You can also sometimes change the category up because some items, depending on what it is, can actually cross over between multiple categories. So if it doesn't work in one category, maybe try it in a different category that it could also fit into that may get different eyes on it. The next thing you want to do is always review your title for accuracy and for clarity. So you want it to be very clear, but you also want it to be accurate. It's amazing how one omission or one misspelling, how one error can throw an entire listing off and cause it not to sell. I just sold a shirt recently that the only thing it was missing, and it wasn't getting any views. And in fact, I couldn't even find it on eBay. Like when I tried to look it up, I couldn't remember what box it had been in, and I had reorganized and pulled it out, and I couldn't find the item to be able to find the SKU. So I was stuck. It was just sitting there. Well, I left it alone for like 2 weeks, and then I tried again, and I found it. Well, when I found it, I realized this was a Polo Ralph Lauren button-down that was vintage. It's a Marseille, okay? So when I found it, it said Ralph Lauren button-down. It didn't say Polo Ralph Lauren. Well, I thought, well, that was probably my problem because I was putting in Polo in front of the Ralph Lauren every time I searched for the shirt. So I added that to the title and changed it up a little bit, took something out, and I sold that shirt within 3 days after making that change, which tells me that this shirt, which I knew had a good sell-through rate but had been with me for months, had not sold simply because of something that was not included in the title. Isn't that amazing? That blows my mind, guys. But that's how important it is to optimize. Little things can make all the difference. Now, as you're reviewing your titles, you also want to make sure that you eliminate filler. Look for contradictions between the title and the description. And I say that because sometimes we just leave things out, or we mess up, or we don't change something in the specifics. And if you use the AI generated description, it's going to use the specifics for the item to often populate part of that description. And sometimes if you don't pay attention and correct those, it will give a contradiction between that and your title. Now, also make sure you use all of your characters that are possible. You've got 80 to use. Use as many as you can. The more keywords you have in your title, the more likely it is to come up in a search result. And be careful again of spelling errors. All right, so the next thing you want to do when you're optimizing is check your prices. Make sure that your comps are still in line with the current market trend. If you need to, lower the price, right? Always be willing to change your price if you have to. And in fact, if it's too old or if it's just a bread and butter item that doesn't have a high value, I would suggest pricing it at or just below the trending market value for the item, especially if it's still inventory, again, that say like $30 or less and it's bread and butter. I would just try to get it to move. Now, this issue, pricing, I'm just telling you out of the gate, pricing for me and probably for you is often the number one reason why things aren't selling. Look, I'm bad at the beginning of some listings to price in the upper third of the market. And I know when I do that the odds of me selling it for that are going to be very slim compared to the bottom third. But I also know if I make that sale within the first week or two, then I've maximized my profit. And it's okay sometimes to shoot for the moon. But guys, if you shoot for the moon on everything you list, you might be disappointed and have a lot of stuff that does not move. Now, the next thing, got my finger in my eye, right? Trying to talk. So the next thing I would do is check your photos. I recently had a listing that someone asked about, and I take a lot of photos. It was a clothing item. And when I pulled it up to answer the question, I only saw 3 photos. And the one that it was using, like the main image was the back of the shirt. I thought, man, that's odd. Why would I choose that? Well, then when I opened it on up and I looked, like I said, there was only 3 photos. For some reason, my photos did not upload. And so here I was trying to sell an item that had a photo of the back, a photo of something on the sleeve, and then it was like a picture that had the measurements in it. And I was like, good grief, man. You know, how did this happen? So it glitched somewhere in the loading process. I had to pull that shirt out, take new pictures of it. And though it hasn't sold yet, I do speculate, right, that the odds of it selling now are much higher than it was before. So always check your photos, and not just to make sure that they're there, but also make sure that your lighting was good, that the background was good, that the color is accurate. You also probably want to include your measurements when necessary if you haven't already done that. I was bad early on to skip measurements on clothing items, and some of those were some of the longest setters. And in fact, I still got some I need to go back and revise and add measurements to. Make sure you show all the key features, take pictures from different angles, take close-ups and full view shots, and make sure you always show any flaws that the item has in the photos. All those are great optimization tips. The more photos you have, the higher your best match score is going to be. So you can't go wrong by taking photos. The next optimization issue you need to address is item specifics. Sometimes for me, I just don't really even take a look at these. Like, I just trust that the previous person that listed did what they were supposed to do, and that's bad. I should always take a look. I'm just being honest though. I'm keeping it real. You know, I know some of us out there like to say, well, we build every listing from scratch. Well, congratulations. I don't have time to do that. So I said, I had a video before where I said, you know, I steal all my best listings. I mean, that's just the truth. I have to use what's already there in order to be able to list the volume that I need to list in order to be successful right now. So, I mean, I don't feel bad about that. And hopefully you won't judge me for it, because most likely, like I said, you do the same thing. That being said, there comes a time when if an item has not sold, it's important that we revisit the specifics and make sure that they're as complete as possible, that there's no errors. Sometimes, you know, like when we don't check them, we change the size in the title, and then we forget to change it in the item specifics, and we've got a contradiction there. We may be trying to sell a large shirt, and it's sending it to people looking for an extra large because we got both sizes listed. That's not going to help us any. So it's important to make sure the specifics are right. And also remember, there's a couple of other positives. This is a great keyword opportunity. The specifics, there's certain categories in the specifics where you can put in keywords for styles and things like that that you cannot put anywhere else. At least maybe unless you can put it in the title, and you know, you run out of room in the title. So it's a good place to stuff in extra keywords that can send traffic to your item. Also, keep in mind, right, that the more complete your item specifics are, the higher your best match score is going to be. So all these things are going to improve your search ranking, and that gets more eyes on your items potentially, right? And the more eyes that are on them, the more regularly, the more likely they are to sell. That's a lot of mores, more of this, more of that, whatever. You get the point, right? So they'll sell when people are seeing them. When they're not seeing them, they won't sell. All right. Last thing, review your shipping, okay? Review your shipping. It's very easy to make a mistake putting in dimensions, putting in weights, and that can throw your shipping off. Now look, if it makes it cheaper than it's supposed to be, it's probably not a problem, right? At least not for the buyer. But sometimes if I fail to make a correction or I'd mistype, it could throw the shipping off by like 200%. Like maybe it's supposed to be $8 and just want to charge 20 something dollars, and the item's only like $20, or $25. That makes no sense in most cases. So you got to make sure there's no errors in the shipping. Check your sizes, your dimensions, right? Check the dimensions, check the weight, make sure it's in line with what it should be, and get that corrected if it's not. So I feel like we can assert two conclusions with what we've talked about so far as it relates to stale listings or stale inventory. The first one, if an item has received sufficient, views, sufficient watches, it's getting attention, right? It's getting eyes on it, that it should have sold, but it has not converted to a sale, then the problem is likely small, but it's also likely something we can fix quickly through just a basic optimization. I just want to throw that out there. So this might be as simple as adjusting the price. As I've already said, having the price set incorrectly is often the number one reason why an item doesn't sell. Check for minor inaccuracies, like I've already mentioned, a misspelled word in the title, an omission from the title that's really important. Look for errors, inaccuracies, and any other issues that we might have mentioned before. Now, if you have an item that is receiving little or no views in watches, if it's sitting there with goose eggs, then guys, there's a really good chance this problem is a lot deeper and it needs attention and it needs a lot of it. And so, first of all, make sure there's an actual market for the item you're trying to sell. You cannot sell something that doesn't have a buyer. Sometimes, and look, I know that you can have items listed that will sell, right? That are unique, that don't have a sold comp. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not even really talking about those one-of-a-kinds that we know have great value and we have to wait a long time for a buyer to come along. I'm talking about everyday items that they sell hundreds, if not thousands of every 90 days, that are bread and butter type items that we know should move, but for some reason ours is not selling. We have to figure out and get to the bottom of what is going on that's keeping that from happening. So first of all, make sure there's an actual market for the item. Check your sell-through rates. You can't sell items that have no buyers. And then after you've done that, if the market is either non-existent, there's not one at all, or say it is just so super saturated and so slow, you got 1,000 listed and only 10 sold in the last 90 days, you may be waiting for years to sell that item. So there comes a time when you've got to make a decision. It's either time to toss it, donate it, or yard sell it. Do something to get rid of it besides leaving it floating around on eBay, killing your store metrics. Okay, that's my first piece of advice there. Yes, we want to optimize, but you can't optimize an item that don't sell into selling. It just doesn't happen. Now, if there is a sufficient market to indicate that the item should sell or does have good potential to sell, and it's just not getting sold, it's got a decent sell-through rate, it should have sold, but it's not converting for whatever reason, then I think at that point it's time to consider a couple of things. One, yes, we got optimization changes we can make, but two, I think for some of these, a drastic price cut is sometimes in order. I think we need to lower the price maybe below the current, like beat the market on whatever that is, especially if the sell-through rate is really slow compared to saturation. That might help you get yours going and be able to put that money into a better piece of inventory. And in many cases, it might even be better to just start from scratch, because if you haven't found any errors that were obvious or found any major issues with the listing like it is, there may be something that you're overlooking. We're really bad as people, right, to make the same mistake over and over, to miss the same problem over and over when we're looking at a listing or anything else for that matter. And so I would suggest sometimes on these items, it might be better when you delist it, just delist it altogether. Don't save any of the listing and go back and look it back up, find new comps, find a new one to copy, and start from scratch and work that one back out and see if you don't get attention on it that way. All right, so I hope that helps. I hope you learned a little bit about optimization today, and don't worry, stick around. I've still got some what sold information for you, and I hope you'll enjoy that as well. As always, if you are not subscribed, this is a great time for you to click that subscribe button. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the content and made it this far. Why not, right? It doesn't cost you anything. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when the next video in this series is launched. And while you're at it, drop me a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you got any questions, suggestions for future videos, let me know about that as well, and I will try my best to work on those for you. All right, so that being said, let's get on to what sold. All right, so let's take a look at what sold. We have 13 items going out the door today for $418.27. The first item we have going out is a DVD of The Who. This one's really cool. This is live in Texas, 1975, and this sold for $8.50 plus shipping. And again, 25 cents in that out of that big haul of music that I bought. Next item, I've had this for a little bit, but this is a really awesome NASA shirt. It's got some like Japanese or something like that on it as well. It's just a really cool shirt. But anyway, I sold this for $10.79 plus shipping. I gave $1 for that, $1 at a yard sale. Next item, I have a lot of 2 DVDs. Take the band off so you can see these. This is Heart. It is Night at Sky Church and Alive in Seattle. And these sold for $14.50 plus shipping. Next up, I've got a Polo Ralph Lauren Oxford button down. This is long sleeve. It's in a mint green color. Very nice shirt. It did have a small little tiny spot down toward the bottom where you tuck it in down toward the shirt tail. I mean, it was real small, way smaller than a pencil eraser. I took a good photo of that, and it was, like I said, it wasn't a dark spot, just a really, really faint one. But anyway, I priced it down. I sold it for $12 plus shipping because of that spot. That's why I didn't bring like closer to 20 bucks. All right, next item. So these aren't worth a whole lot. The shipping's more than the item, but it's hard for me to pass these up. I just really like them. I think I gave $1 for this at a yard sale. This is one of those Hot Wheels carry-alls, and it's got the rollers on it, the wheels, just a really nice one. This one holds, what does it say, 110, over 110 of the small cars. So anyway, gave about $1 for this at a yard sale, and this sold for $9 plus shipping. I've had it a while. I decided to let it go. I mean, it's a decent profit margin, just not a big money sale. But again, because of my childhood, I loved playing with my cars when I was a kid. And so sometimes I end up picking up stuff like that just because of that. I probably should avoid it. Honestly, it's probably not a good use of my time. That's going to be a little bit, you know, I don't have a perfect box for it, so I'm probably going to struggle a little bit finding what box to put it in. So the amount of time I'm going to have invested in that one item, it's not going to be worth, you know, the $6 or so that I make off of it, $6 or $7. But anyway, moving on. Next, I have a pair of Aftco swimming trunks. It's just American Fish and Tackle Company. These are really nice. These are like the board shorts, and these sold for $16.50 plus shipping. If you're not familiar with the Aftco brand, most of the items that are made by Aftco, even their t-shirts sell okay, but especially their shorts. If you find their fishing shorts and their fishing shirts, the button-down shirts, those do really well if you can get a good price on them. Those are a good pickup. All right, next item up. Still selling out of this Nintendo lot that I bought last year. This is Pokemon Pinball. Some of these I'm finally kind of dropping my price a little bit. It does have the booklet, so I don't have the case for this. But anyway, this sold for $23 plus shipping. A pretty good sale. And, you know, I'm finding with these that on some of them I have my price just a little bit high for the market. That's why some of them have set. But also I wanted to make sure, because I knew this was good stuff, that I didn't price it so low that I cost myself money. So I've been kind of, you know, sending out some offers, lowering my price a little bit, and it's helped some of it move. All right, next item up, I have a pair of shoes. I'm sorry I didn't mention what I had in the shorts. The shorts to come out of the local thrift for $2.50, I believe it was. And then same way with the polo shirt, about $2.50 on it into the $12. And the game I've been in the profit on those games for a while, so that was all profit. And then these shoes I gave $5 for. These are Verbenas Born to be Fun, made in Spain. These are like the espadrilles. I still don't know if I say that right, espadrilles or espadrillas. or espadrilles, who knows? I don't know. I mean, maybe one of y'all can tell me. But anyway, really nice pair of shoes. Like I said, these are made in Spain. Super, super soft leather. Very nice suede. And I've had these listed for maybe like a month and a half. Again, $5 on these at my Honey Hole thrift shop. And these sold for 20 plus shipping. So, not a huge money flip, but I literally took like, 3 pictures or 4 pictures of those. They were clean. They were nice. I didn't have to do anything. Take the pictures, throw them in a tub, wait a month or two, and they sold. All right, next item up. So this one I got, I can't remember if I got this at America's Thrift or at my local one. I either gave like $7 or $8 for this, or I gave $2.50 for it. I wish I could remember, but I didn't write it down. This has the big pony on it, the big embroidery. It's also, if you see, it's got well, I'll show you on the back side. Okay, so it's like color block, but it's at an angle. So shirts like this and Ralph Lauren polo generally do better than your basic polos, and this one sold for $24.99 plus shipping. So I knew when I bought this, I know even when I find these at a thrift store where they mark them up to like $7 or $8, they're still going to do pretty good. It's still worth buying a lot of times because they're going to sell for 25 to 30. And guys, that one was just a medium. If that had been like an extra large or a 2X, I probably would have gotten closer to 30 had it been a 2X or maybe like an extra large. That's just the way it goes. All right, next item, I have a Coach purse. I picked this up. This is actually in one of my thrifting videos that I posted. I don't do a lot of picking videos. I do one every so often. I try to do them. They take so long for me to edit and get together. I tend to not get those done as quickly. I do have a few in the works. But this is a nice Coach, kind of a coral color. It is embossed with the C's, the insignia. And of course you can see Coach right there on the front. It did have some flaws. It's got some ink transfer. I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, but like right in there, it's got some ink transfer. I don't think it's going to show up. It's kind of to the bottom, so it doesn't show as bad. But anyway, I didn't price this up real high. This sold for $20 plus shipping, but I think I gave like $6.99 for it. So I did okay. I didn't make a lot on that one. Sometimes, I didn't look it up ahead of time. Coach purses, sometimes you get one, it's vintage, and it'll do really, really well. Sometimes you get the right style. It can be really good. Sometimes they're just a $20 or $30 purse at best still. So that one fell in that category. But that's fine. Again, I made money off of it, so I'm happy. All right. So then we have a Patagonia. This is nearly the color of what I got on. So this is a Patagonia men's logo coral organic cotton crew neck sweatshirt. So this is a large, and again, this is a crew neck sweatshirt. So nothing fancy here. It's just got the printed logo on it. But this sold still for $24 plus shipping. Everybody knows about Patagonia, I think, if you are a reseller and you sell any clothing at all. Always be on the lookout for Patagonia. It's one of the stronger brands that you will find, and it always sells very well. Now, this next item, I would say probably people in the vintage market would know about this, but some of you may not be as familiar. Back when I was a kid, I say a kid, I guess a teenager in early 20s, in the 90s, kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, when the MMA, UFC type stuff was really starting to grow in popularity. They had these shirts, these MMA Elite shirts that were put out. So this is somewhat vintage. You can't really tell much about this in the on the camera here, but this is a vintage MMA Elite shirt, extra large. It's got the skull, like the skull cross that's on the front of it. It has that nice fade to it. It's kind of a Y2K era shirt. This sold for $29.99 plus shipping, and I only gave I think it was $2 for this, so it wasn't very much at all. So those shirts, they're really good pickups. Those are good vintage t-shirts if you happen to run across them. And my last sale of the day is my biggest sale by far out of these. It's twice what the others were. I didn't have any huge, just blow the doors open type sales in this group, but this one, this is also in a video that I put out of picking. This is the Game Wave. This was new in the box, although the box has been opened. And this is it's got a family entertainment system, and it's got games that you play with it with these remotes. It's a really cool item. It's kind of big, kind of bulky. You can see, you know, it's a good size deal here. But I think it was $10 I gave for this. And this sold for $64.87 plus shipping. So it's going to be worth it. And the shipping was a lot because it's heavy. So the shipping was like 20 bucks. So I may end up getting $4 or $5 out of the shipping, which probably I need, because to be honest, it's going to take a minute to get it wrapped up and to figure out the box. Because again, I don't have a box exactly made or sized to this size. So that would be a little bit of trouble getting packed up, but it will definitely be worth it. All right, so that's all the sales I have this time. Nothing super exciting. Again, several clothing items this time around. I had one of my viewers had come in and said it's time for me to just go ahead and confess that, you know, I'm a full-time clothing reseller that sells media and music as a side hustle. I mean, maybe that's what I need to go ahead and admit. Because, you know, I say it a lot, but I don't prefer to sell clothing, but clothing is something that I have an easy time sourcing. I have good access to it. And because there's more of it readily available for me, oftentimes that's what I find myself buying the most of. Not because it's my favorite thing to list, but my favorite thing to do, right, is to make money selling items on eBay. I like to find good deals and find items that will sell well and sell quickly and turn a good profit. And so, guys, if I'm out and that happens to be closed that day, it's just clothing. And so, you know, you go in a thrift store, and any random thrift store, clothing is going to normally be, you know, at the places I go, probably 80% of the store or more. And because of that, I mean, and we're talking about an item by item basis, it may even be more than that. It may be more like 90%. And, you know, your odds of finding a good clothing item are significantly higher when the, you know, proportions are like that than it is the hard goods. Everybody's after the hard goods. Everybody's after the toys. Everybody's after electronics. Everybody goes to shoes pretty much if they're resellers. They all check those items out. And so, you know, it's increasingly harder and harder to find quality items in a thrift shop or, you know, places like that are not clothing when it's you know, balanced that way. Now, if you get there and you hang out and you wait on carts, then you can score some pretty good stuff. And every now and then, I mean, I get lucky a lot and I do well with other items, but I'm just saying on the average, I will walk out with more clothing items than I do other things. And I think that's just because there's a larger volume of them and the access is greater to those than it is to the hard good type items. So, all right, guys. So remember what I told you earlier. Don't forget, it's end, optimize, and then sell similar. That's going to be the best formula for success using end, sell similar. There always needs to be adjustments made. Make sure that you are improving those old stale listings to get more eyes on them and to get them sold and out the door. So that's all I got for you guys. Hope you have a great one. Don't forget, I love you, God loves you, and man, whatever you do, don't you ever give up. Guys, I'll see you on the next one.